So we're back. We're here at SFA News Live. We're on the lower level. Come by and visit us. Also on monitors throughout all of Javits Center, as well as on Facebook Live. So tune in, and then what's going to happen, probably in a couple hours, each of these interviews will be posted on the Specialty Food Association's Fancy Food Show webpage. So it's not just live, but you're actually going to be able to hear from the leaders of the industry. What are their insights? Where are we going? And we're going to be doing this for the next 3 days. So I hope you'll stop by and join us. Next up, I've got a guy here who's been coming to the Fancy Food Show almost as long as I have. Evan Hyman from Ingredion. And this is something new that Fancy Food and Specialty Food Association is reaching out to people like you that make ingredients. So it's not just working with individual brands and entrepreneurs here, but really having you bring your knowledge to these smaller companies. So I guess first up, tell me about Ingredion. I'm not familiar with the company.
Sure, well thanks Phil, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. And yes, I've been coming here almost as long as you have. So Ingredion, we are a Fortune 500 company. We've been around our legacy for almost 100 years. We manufacture things like starches and sweeteners, nutritional ingredients, very on-trend ingredients, a lot of non-GMO, plant-based, all the things that you sort of hear and when you walk around the show you see in the products. So, as I said, we've been around a long time, and actually I met Phil Kafarakis a couple years ago, a year and a half ago or so, and we started a dialogue and we said, hey, how can we get a little bit more involved here? Because people from my company have been walking this show forever because actually our customers are here,
right.
And they display at the show, but we decided that we wanted to be a lot more proactive at a show like this, and particularly because a lot of the changes in the food industry that have happened. We service customers large and small, and we've been servicing small customers for a long time, but we wanted to be more proactive, and we launched our emerging business initiative around that to make sure that customers here and companies understand what we do and how we can actually help them. So I'm happy to get more into that as well.
So let's say I'm one of these companies here. I've had a label and ingredients that maybe haven't been on trend. Maybe it's not plant-based. Maybe I've been using an artificial sweetener.
Sure.
Maybe I'm a GMO product, GMO ingredient in there. Walk me through. What's the process?
Sure.
How do you reformulate something for somebody to be on trend, and what are some of the stumbling blocks that they have to go through to do that?
Sure.
You heard me speaking to Gary Hirschberg just a couple minutes ago with the Just Label It initiative, because everybody now wants a clean label.
That's right.
So you guys are pretty busy.
Yeah. So it's a great place to be. We've, particularly with things like our clean label starches, we've been dealing with clean label products and non-GMO products for well over 20 plus years because of what's happening in Europe and Asia, right? So we have for example, we have a factory in Indianapolis that is 100% non-GMO product that goes into the factory. So, getting to your question around how would a company approach us, how would we maybe have a conversation around something? So let's say, a cracker manufacturer, wanted to figure out how they can make their cracker a little bit more crunchy, right? And in that process, they want to have a clean label ingredient. So potentially they can engage with us through our website. They can engage with us through people on my team, so the emerging business team, where conceivably you could have a conversation. We could even bring in potentially a food scientist to maybe help them with that conversation. Hey, this is the sort of thing you might want to try and understand a little bit more about the processing conditions, right, of what that is. And then ultimately make a recommendation around, hey, maybe this is sort of an ingredient you might want to try. And even give them potentially a starter formulation that actually could help them as far as their relabeling goes. But we always look at the parameters that we're given. So if someone says, hey, we want clean label, we will be able to help them with that.
Right.
Another example would be, you mentioned sweeteners, right? We do quite a bit in sweeteners and sugar reduction. So we have things like stevia in the portfolio, which that are non-GMO project verified. We can make those recommendations around these kind of things in the specific usage level for a beverage product, let's say, where, if people are looking to do that, they want to have the label, and we can even give them recommendations as to how that product would be labeled as well.
So, what are some of the topics for ingredients that you're seeing rising to the surface? You mentioned plant-based. I see a lot more plant-based products than ever before. But give me the top 3 or 4.
Definitely plant-based, clean label, non-GMO, sugar reduction. And I think the other thing for us, it's not just about the specific things that are on trend. It's also, I would call it, sort of channels to market. right? So you look at people who are at the show, they're not just going to retail, they're going to Amazon, right? So all those sorts of things, food service, and the in-depth growth of private label, right? So you see all these different trends. So we look at both the trends and we also look at the companies. So I mean, even for us, we're looking at things like traditionally where we hadn't been a little bit more forward, where it looks like things like private label or food service. We're looking at that. We didn't have a director of emerging business a year and a half ago. And we specifically made that happen because we wanted to make sure that we're talking to the marketplace. I mean, look, it's not a secret. If you look at the trends in the last couple of years, a lot of the big CPGs have been a little bit challenged, and the growth has been coming from here, right? Everyone's looking for, the next Chobani or Kind Bar or something like that, right? So if you want to be here, you have to engage, and we see that. We see that as a trend, that the disruption of the food market by a lot of these smaller brands, emerging businesses, and that whole value chain from product developers to venture capital and everyone in between. These are the people who are influencers, and traditionally, and we still do this, but our audience has also often been like a purchasing person or a product developer. But you might have somebody, for example, at a show like this, who launched a product with out of their business school case competition, and then they outsource that stuff afterwards, and they don't even know what product development is. So that's why we need to make sure that we look at this in a different way and we engage a little bit differently.
So when you walk the show floor, and obviously the show just opened, so you haven't had a chance to, what are some of the things that you look for that determine a trend versus a fad?
That's a great question. I mean, honestly, maybe I'm a little jaded because I have been coming here for 20 years. So, look, I think a lot of people are talking about non-GM for a long time, right? Is that a trend or a fad? It's clearly here. It's here to stay. I think it's going to continue. Obviously, plant-based is here and is here to stay. I have to honestly say, when I look at the things that at least Ingredion has sort of put its money down on the table for in the last few years, I think we've done a good job to look at, hey, these things are actual trends, and we've done our homework to look at that. The other thing I do want to mention is that, as we've tried to engage with companies here, when we talk to companies, a lot of these smaller companies, sometimes they're afraid to talk to companies like us. Hey, you're a big Fortune 500 company, right? So, we actually set up a website at emergefaster.com where literally a company can come on, they can engage, they can go to an online shopping site and click sort of with a credit card and buy a bag of an ingredient, which is unheard of for a lot of these companies, right? And all those ingredients are some of these on-trend types of ingredients that, that we're talking about.
Well, Evan, thank you so much for being here at the show again this year, but also really reaching out to so many of these companies, so many of these entrepreneurs that really don't know what to do and where to go. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Happy to be here and happy to support.
Much.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more at SFA News Live.